Hi guys, this latest subject I'm about to recite started its life as a thing called the popcorn killers. But like with a lot of written works, they can take their own direction, and this was swayed by a good friend of mine called Pip Thomas, who had a friend called Jim. Now Jim, to make life easy, called everyone else Jim, so everyone in the world became a Jim. And by association, me and Pip started calling each other's Jim, which led me to believe that there is indeed something wrong with Jim. Now, me and Steve are doing this today, filming this. It's been a long time coming, and we are using rather splendid social distancing techniques. As a matter of fact, Steve is in Merthyr, and I'm in Harris, Peter and Drakeford. Anyway, so this is my latest subject, and it is called There's Something Wrong with Jim. Jim's first curiosity was if indeed a thing could inflict. For a delver deep in pain, it would seem was him. He was a catalyst the day sucked God's air and the holy warned, for they knew there was something wrong with Jim. As a babe, he terrorized his mother's breast, as like a vampire bat, he did suck and most savage cling. His cradle core was like the head of Medusa's hiss, and mother knew the day she dropped him. There was something wrong with Jim. For he loved fairy tales of bone-munching cannibals living on islands of fire, poaching heads and toasting fingers far away. He had a treasure trove of nail clippings and hair cuttings, all tools and odds and bods of voodoo that Jim would love to play. He tortured his biscuit-tin troop of soldiers as his play became the fantasy of mean. He learned to twist and pinch like pliers, and he knew to defile what is cherished is the quickest way to find a scream. He peeled his worms like others peeled bananas, for bananas did not wiggle enough for Jim. He terrorized his dolly-playing sister, putting one vial down her back and threatening her out of hair and skin. And his heroes became history's great axe murderers, as Jim became an unimagined, sick, grotesque in mind, for Jim loved young, chopping up toxic creatures, sneaking bits in the family food and sniggering as they dined. He grew an annoying habit of dislodging eyeballs and viewing people as cuts of meat. He loved skin that happened upon boiling water, and he had a macabre fascination with knocking nails in feet. As a child, he adorned himself in cobwebs and ketchup to catapult Granny out of her wits. That is to say, he loved it when she swallowed her dentures, and poor Granny knew, "We'll be wrapped up, I'll be someday." For he loved flattening thumbs and claw hammers, for he was a mind to live to be a ghoul inclined. Household pets were impaled in seconds, and the day Granny choked on glass, he begged the Lord to strike him blind. For he craved to be the howl upon the moon, indeed the creep that crawls right through your skin. He heckles at the backs of dogs, for even dumb creatures knew there was something wrong with Jim. Then he found a deep romance in cinematic murder, a taint of desire, and a tomb of love for him shall be. He plucked his idols from the great impalers and tentacle-clawed monsters that could sever heads beneath the sea. Then Jim took on this smell of turpentine and sulphur, and all felt eradication or combustion near him. He strived to be a grand composer of epitaphs, and if ghosts could talk, they would tell, "Oh, there's something wrong with Jim." But Ma and Pa were always godly things, always washing feet and saying prayers divine. But Jim thought the Lord God spoiled all the fun, so from young he gave his souls to devils and their kind. And his mother sobbed, "He has lost the cross in Jesus, for God cannot see to know where to begin, for he is cold as death but hot as hell, and I'm sure if God could find him, he'd send a flood and drown out Jim." For he got aroused when psychos pounced in showers, for he is a twitchy sort of Jack-in-the-box inclined. Jim became that constant scratching just beyond the dark, the rat-a-tat-tat that knocks and steps into the land. For he is held and guided by eyes in mirrors. He is the cornered cobweb child best served dark. For he finds premature detonations funny, poof, and only mishaps concerning tragedy or fatality he deems the greatest lark. And then he trained his hands to twist in knots and became a sculptor of necks inclined. Purple and blue shall be his masterpiece, for death is fantasy as art and terror becomes entwined. For he is the creep, the spine of needles that tread the neck, the ice touch of a whisper behind you can never see. He is that peek-a-boo that scares you sick, that final shove that will indeed be the death of thee. And as he grew, he desired to emulate the great snatchers, to use as a ploy, a hook of loneliness to drown you in his eye, for he craves to make you a precious thing in holes, and sit and watch and count your tears as you cry. For he desired to keep a petite thing to play the mouse, for he is the cat to toy the ball of wool inclined. He'd love to find that ultimate timid, the most gorgeous limp that he could bind, but would still love him nature blind. And he would bed you sound asleep in poison, and tuck you in with razor blades as is his way, and make a heartfelt fantasy of your death, and hatchet you up, so in bits with him you'd always stay. And death fell into his arms like a true romance, as coolly clean as marble, as lifeless and pale as milk, a deep opal of that look that would never fade, a skin that gave to his sense an ice-cold gift of silk. And whisky mean he now beholds his savage god, now a digger of graves, a mighty keeper of heads is he. For now his presence is never sought or just inflicted, for he can no longer disguise this monster he seems to be. And life becomes pennies or tuppence to Jim, with a stone or grub, that is to say. And squashed and ground all life shall be, turned to dust, lost to the wind, and forever blown away. And he killed by the barrowload, for the drive of man's lust is an endless gnawing feed, for whereas some collect stamps or watches, for Jim it was the severed head that drove his collective greed. But why could good heroes not see or snatch it? But I suppose he was no lump of dragon large, not him, I mean to say. There is no placard upon his head to warn the world, for God's sake, run, there's something wrong with Jim. And fearless became the trade of his killer. But complacency, they say, can blunt the blade of sly, and the hooters of law did sniff around and hound it, all now eager to turn up the heat and indeed see this monster fry. Then one day in a joy of whistles, Jim was a-slashing, missing the sun that did pounce upon the night, and the light revealed the pits and guile of the beast, and proud mothers with nurturing charms did woe and wail the sight. Then they saw him, elbow deep in teeth and eyes, caught with red blood hands up to his chin. Look, Sir Law, he's covered in murder! And now all speculation knew for sure there was something wrong with Jim. And the Lord of Man said, "Yeah, we knew him. He did seem an odd Jim in ways inclined. I mean to say, we knew he loved his flicks of slash. But the roar of a chainsaw we deemed to be a woodman or his kind." And his mother sobbed, "Oh, did this thing struck out of me, this stinking rotten Jim, that is to say, and I shall ever feel his claws inside me." But the people pelted her with stones and wondered, with what monster did she lay? It is a head that will impact well with closed windows, for he is a beast who bites of babies' heads, or so the judge could tell, and I must muster all the gospel of my Bible, and damn this abomination straight to flame and hell. And the jury screamed, "He robs mothers of two eyes." They cried in joy, and what should be? "He is a foulness that does wrench his stomachs empty, so drown the bugger in a bucket and pop it out to sea. Better still, a good gashing in an electric chair to crisp and black inside inclined, or deep fry him fritter style, tip him up and drop him down to where the devil dines." And the hand that held the hood offered Jesus one small mercy, for we drop you dead, that is to say. But monsters have no kin in heaven, so he spat the cross and turned his head away. And the law imposed a mighty grinding of affliction, a great squeeze that did pop his eyes like plums, and all cheered heartily as he roasted, all men now convinced they had killed one of the devil's sons. And they say Jim's grave frenzied in a sliver of worms and echoed in howls, and no holy lip divine would melody, psalm or hymn, and the last spoke words were, "Damn him dead," for no priest would dare to pray, "Please, Lord, forgive our Jim." And in a graveyard stands an ugly slab of brick, with no thought or eye for what lies within. For there is no epitaph of lovely boy or sadly missed. There is just this, I told you so. There was something wrong with Jim. Phew.